Hi and welcome back to the Docentric Advanced Functional Training series. In this video, we will learn about the features that extend the standard D365 F&O functionalities around sending the report to the printer print destination. We named these features as follows: User Default Printer, Report Restricted Printers, and User Printers in two flavors: User Favorite Printers and User Allowed Printers. They are all configured on this form, and this configuration is applied in runtime as well as in the Docentric forms wherever a network printer lookup is provided, for example in the Docentric printer print destination. We will start with the user default printer. You remember how in the printer's lookup, for example on the Docentric printer print destination, the first offered printer is an @default_printer @token. When it is selected, Docentric will resolve the default printer for the current user. There are three levels of configuration in the Docentric AX parameters form. Default printer per company. It makes sense to always configure it as a fallback option if nothing else is set. Then default printer per user group, and the finest grained configuration per user. This form lists all users, and the only editable field here is the user's default printer. The next column only displays the group's default printer based on the user groups to which the user belongs. And the default printer set globally comes from the setting per company. We can quickly jump to the company default printer and verify that it is really printer 01. And if I change it here and go back to the user default printer form, we see that the change is applied here. The effective default printer column shows us how the user default printer is resolved based on the previous three values, where the user default printer has the highest priority and the company default printer has the lowest priority. For example, I'm admin and printer 07 is explicitly set here as my default printer. Therefore, my effective default printer is also 07. Alicia doesn't have any user default printer specified, but she belongs to a group to which a group default printer is set to 06, which is then resolved as her default printer. And for example, Benjamin doesn't have any printer set in the first two columns, so the company default printer will apply to him. Now, if we print some report to the printer print destination with the default printer selected, my printouts will go to the printer 07, Alicia's printouts will go to the printer 06, and Benjamin's report will be printed on the printer 05. There is one more thing to be explained about the user default printers. Notice this flag, Allow users to set up default printer. If it is on, users can set up their default printer. They need to go to User Options, Account, where we see the Docentric Settings Fast tab, and here is the Change My Default Printer menu item. We come to the same form as previously, but this time it is filtered only for the current user. I can now change my default printer and see how it immediately takes effect. I can quickly test what happens if I go to some simple report like number of workers and print it interactively to the Docentric printer print destination with the default printer selected. We see from the info message that the report was sent to the printer 10. I can also open the document routing agent, where we also see that the document was printed to the printer 10. What would happen if I disable this flag? Users won't see that menu item for configuring their default printer, but administrator will need to do the whole configuration for all users. That's why we have added these actions that enable the administrator to perform some bulk operations, for example to multi-select some users and assign a default printer to them, or clear the selected default printer in one step, or to validate them. When the other printer-related features are enabled, such as user-allowed printers, validation can give us some useful information.